Hi everyone, it's Evelyn from Twin Flames 3344. I have a bunch of messages for you. I'm not going to do the formal read. I have a union spread in front of you, but I'm actually going to give you information from actually 4 union spreads from yesterday and today, and a read that I did yesterday. I'm going to give you all of the information. A lot of it is paralleling to the Easter timeline here, so there was just some important messages to get out. I'm going to clear, and I'm probably going to pull a few oracle cards as well. A little bit clearing. Take a deep breath, you guys. Let's clear all negative, dark, and viral energies across all dimensions of time, space, matter, and realities for the highest good of all those concerned. And fill that empty space with only beautiful divine love and diamond crystalline light. And so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so before I start with my notes here, and this will be quicker than usual because I want to get all these messages out. And I want you to know, too, my union read in front of you, I rearranged it because it made more sense to have 3D down here, especially when I have my downloads card, because it downloads from the 5D to the 3D. So this is 3D, 4D, and 5D, just in this read. Everything up till now was the opposite way, where this was 3D, 4D, 5D. But this read now starts 3D, 4D, 5D. We have the feminine energy coming in this way. We have the masculine energy going out that way. This is the feminine, the bridge, the masculine, right? So the bridge between them, the underlying energy up there, and then here is the closing summary energy for the read. All right, so from the energy deck, I'm going to pull a quick card before we start. Today is April 11th, 2020, right? So we had the crucifixion yesterday, and we have the Easter tomorrow. So they're very important energies that come up this time of year every year for the twins. So here, so from the energy deck, for the anybody watching, for the best and highest good of all those concerned, what do we need to know? What do we need to learn today? What is our message? From the energy deck, what is our message? Okay. Wow, that's a godly message. 53. And he's in his pajamas, too. That's what it looks like. 53 is the Knight of Swords, so the messenger of truth. It's also the catapult, comes in very quickly, and the magician and the mirror, okay? So your psychic abilities and your mirroring that you do. This is a quick message coming in from God to you directly. So that's a really beautiful way to start this out. There's 2 other cards that wanted to come out besides the underlying energy. I'm going to show you that. The underlying energy is the Angel of Balance. This is representing the feminine's heart and her stability now. Okay, and the 48 is the walking away and within. And you have the desert energy of the pyramids there. Her making peace with her emotional side and the masculine's desert logical side. Okay, there's a parallel there today. And then we have the masculine side coming out. So there's indecision, number 8, which is inner strength. And there's a lot of red, which is root chakra energy, which also comes up today. And just the Chinese red of abundance was coming up today. And some of the messages. So here again, referencing that abundance to the root chakra, because it's the importance of the strong foundation, okay? And this is about someone at the Y in the road, not sure which direction to take. So indecision of the 8, doing the dance between the masculine and the feminine and the 3D and 5D. And then we have the man holding a coin, which is 43, the coming together. Okay, so when he feels good, then he decides, okay? So that's when he's ready to come together, when he feels stable again, very grounded in a strong foundation, okay? So that's very beautiful. We have these 3 together for the feminine and the masculine, and then the master here, okay? So really beautiful. All right, so starting off. So before I start my messages, I want to show you the reads. So I'm going to show them close up so you can see them. Okay, so this was their first one yesterday. And then this, I wanted to show you my star picture because a blue light was reflecting on it, and it was the letter L there. You see the L? So I thought it was pretty cool. I wanted to show it to you. This was the second one from yesterday. Remember, the 3D is the top row here. And then we had the read from yesterday. Let's get that a little bit more clear. And then we have today. So you see how much the Lovers is coming up in the union read, especially on the feminine side. And then we have the, oh, this was a picture I took of the sun. I wanted you to see it because I retook the picture so it's not as clear. But there's literally an infinity above the sun. And I want to show you this more clearly. All right, so there's an infinity here around the sun, just like a hat, just like the infinity would appear on the cards. And then right here is a feather. This also looks like an angel, whether she's lying face up or face down. And this was very colorful. It's hard to see in this picture, but it's like the rainbow energies emanating from her head. And then also the infinity has like a lion's nose. So it looks like a lion's mask as well that you would wear at like a masquerade ball. And then I was getting this empty black space. Looked like my ceramic bowl I took outside with my crystals sticking out of it, but it also represents for me the lotus energy as well, the flower opening up. And there's other stuff in here we were saying too. My son and I were both looking at it, but that was the sun yesterday. And then I showed you, again, this is the one in, oh, I'm sorry, the second one is the one in front of you. That's where I was missing. I was confused. All right. So the second one from today is the one in front of you, which I already told you. So starting with my messages, and this starts from like 10 o'clock at night from the 9th. So it's really going into the 10th and then the 11th today. So in summarizing the union reads from 10 o'clock at night on the 9th into the 10th through the present today, first thing I wrote down was the ghost who walks, because that was the movie I watched. And who's the ghost who walks? Is literally Jesus in the resurrection tomorrow. Okay, so the E Tower, which is the Divine Feminine's heart, and Trinity were coming up, as well as karma and separation, which is the pain, and that the truth lies beneath the surface, exposed for all to see. So the sovereign going to the shadow in that first union read was referencing me and my shadow. All right. So the feminine and the masculine as her shadow, right, her higher self, and the Lovers coming up in the center of the read. The Divine Feminine leaps to the Mary Magdalene cave as the Divine Masculine cracks his heart open wide, and the need to follow the star. Okay, whether that's the sun, the stars, the central sun, right? Your own energy of shining your light. It's all about the star. And ascend with the diamond energy from deep within the earth that's now exposed. So it's like the diamond light in the earth is now, the energy is changing to now be exposed and actually come out of the surface of the earth, the diamond energy. So Durga and also dolphins was coming up, and Metatron's cube as tools to ascend by, as well as 5 white horses. 7 steps by twos, 2 by 2, out of the dark and into the light, the Lovers ride into Hieros Gamos, allowing the grief to see the love that erupts from below the surface. She opens to crystals and he opens to love. Okay? So stand up, be strong, and shine your light. And the number 58 was coming up around this, which is the 4 of Swords, and that's the 5D meditation together between the masculine and the feminine. The dream family and the crystal room, the peacock and the garden of prayer were all coming up. So now this ties into the next and the next. They all tie in together, which is why I'm reporting them together. So 2 lovers in the chariot, the angel, the devil, and the high priestess, which is the truth, right? His truth, her truth, and the truth, as he comes to mediate. Okay? So on 4/10, which was the date of the crucifixion yesterday, and thank you, Steve, for the stuff that you sent me. One of the things he sent me was from Matt Kahn, and one of the lines from what he was talking about was you can't judge someone and love yourself at the same time, right? So, and the question he used was so pertinent to the twin flame journey. How could he do that to me, right? How could he hurt me that way? So that line was in reference to that question. You can't judge someone and love yourself at the same time. So I was also being shown to tell you to experiment with crystal placement around your house. So instead of randomly having your crystals around, experiment with their placement, whether it's inside or outside. If you have a tree stump, instead of thinking about having it taken out, use it to sit on and pray on, since it grounds you into the earth as a garden of prayer. And remember that life can completely flip in an instant. So they were taking me back to when my high school boyfriend broke up with me because his ex forced him to call me. Of course, no one can force you to do anything. But so, I really grieved that day. I was crying and crying. I didn't understand because we were just in love the day before. And so all of a sudden, my whole life just turned upside down. And then the next day, it flipped back again because he told me it wasn't true. All right. So just a reminder how your life can be completely turned upside down and then completely turned back up the very next day at any moment. And that message came up at 12:21. Okay. And so allow yourself to cry and thus expand, because the cry allows the reset to happen, just like the morning hours allow a reset to happen. That's the quantum leap. The Divine Feminine working in Crystal Cave to warm it up. So the Mary Magdalene Cave in this deck is a very cold place. It's all ice. There's no light there. And she's with some random crystals on the ground. And below her is the group. She's in a higher energy than the group below, but she's also in exile in the cave away from the group. So the Divine Feminine working in the Crystal Cave in order to warm the crystals up, to hear the stars, to amplify and increase the energy stores, right? And I always tell you about the safety pin and the sun, that the feminine needs to recharge with the sun, which is a star. Line your steps with crystals, and also Orgone was coming up, in a purposeful way to tip the scales in your favor. So when I was getting these messages yesterday, I actually took some of my crystals outside. I didn't line them up on the steps because I don't have ones big enough that wouldn't fly away or be stolen from my steps. But I did put them outside with my lions. I actually have 3 lions out front. One's like the mama lion because it's me and my 2 kids. Or it was anyway, before my kids moved out. So there's the mama lion. I have my bowl with my Mother Mary stone that I got from France. That's from the Mary Magdalene Cave right above there. And also a quartz crystal twin I put out there by the mother lion. And then each baby lion has a selenite tower next to its back hind leg, one on the left and one on the right. And then I have my bigger stones next to my gargoyle that was from my parents by the door. So just, experiment with your placement. And I definitely feel the energy difference from when I put the crystals outside, like now and before then. So just experiment and see what happens. But I was also getting guided over and over again to a garden of prayer, and that 2 people are watching downloads being passed. Now, these 2 people watching the downloads being passed is also paralleling to the 2 thieves that get hung along with Jesus. All right, they were witnesses to his death. The transition, right, from the 3D to the 5D. The Divine Masculine coming off the full moon emotions into guidance of Buddha and Eastern religions and the Sphinx creation. Justice was coming up in that read with the wounded warrior in the middle, and then ending up with the 4 of Cups, which is again reaching for the star. So in 2 cards in the SIRIAN Starseed deck in front of you, the star card and the 4 of Cups, they're both, one is reaching for the star, actually trying to get the sound energy, the sound of the spheres out of the star, and then sending it down to the 3D into the human body. And then the 4 of Cups card, let's see if I have them out here. They're not out right now, but I'll show them to you when I'm finished this. Oh, the 4 of Cups card is there, but not the star card. So the 4 of Cups card is about someone being on a stone. I'll show you that one. This is the 4 of Cups, all right? So it's being out on a stone in the middle of the turbulent oceans or waters and unable to get to this cup over here, right? Because it's a little scary between there, and looking up to the stars for help. So there's this parallel about reaching for the star. So then I took those sun pictures that I showed you. The infinity, the angel wing, the feather, the lion's nose, the ceramic bowl, and the lotus. Amplify your star power by sitting on a tree stump, like I said, in order to ground. And build a garden of prayer, and they will come. So I was getting that message too. Build it, and they will come, the secret garden. So a place of prayer, okay? Whether it's inside or outside, but I was getting, since it's springtime now, it's so beautiful to plant a garden and, make your own little secret garden there to do your work. So let's see, and that's a great way just to spend some time, right? Be creative, be around high energy flowers and prayer, and also be out in the sun to recharge and reset yourself and have something positive to do. So then some energies around, because I'd seen John Amaral. He's that chiropractor who's pulling up people by their auric bodies. If you haven't seen it, look at the Goop with Gwyneth Paltrow on Netflix. She's doing a series with all sorts of unusual things that she does, and they did an ayahuasca experience as well. But I was thinking about that again, and also another chiropractor I'd researched many years ago, Eric Berg, came up on a website when I opened my iPad. So he came up again. He wrote a book called The 7 Principles of Fat Burning. So I'm wondering, so why is this coming up again? And it was coming up in conjunction with some Chinese medicine stuff that a viewer sent to me yesterday. But it's all about, with the John Amaral stuff, it was all about clearing the emotional body. So a lot of the stuff that he was doing would cause the person's body to contort, but in a backbend sort of way. So the message I was getting from Spirit, because obviously not everyone can see this person, because I'm sure he's very expensive, but he's also across the country, and he's only one person. He can only see so many people, and he sees, famous people, so I'm sure he's very expensive. But the point behind the energy work he was doing had to do with stretching, because we sit so much of our lives that there's a major imbalance in our energy, because nobody rebalances their energy by arching back and getting up and stretching your arms up and stretching your arms back. So those were many of the movements being shown in order to release the energy blocks and buildups within your body and your etheric body as well. So it's very important to do those arch type exercises and stretches, as well as your arms stretching back, like down and back, but also up and back, all right? And just up straight as well, really stretching. And when I did some of those yoga cards, we were getting a lot to stretch upward, okay? So it's about the release of the stuck energy stores within your body and your auric layers. And also walking on your back was coming up here. With your legs bent, I was getting focus on the lower thigh, the lower back thigh. So if you're laying on your stomach with your legs bent, putting pressure on your lower thigh. And then I was getting walking on your back, like everyone used to do when we were little, walk on each other's backs. So, because that can help stretch too, as far as the arch too. So don't do anything that you're not comfortable with, or, if you have a bad back, obviously don't just do something without talking to your doctor first. So, but anyway, stretching overall was coming up as really important. Make sure you stretch to get all those stuck energy blocks out of your body. So the Divine Masculine is coming up as warming and organizing crystals, but on the Divine Feminine side. So it's like the masculine energy is coming into the Divine Feminine to do something, and the Divine Feminine's collecting and gardening on his side of the process, and then bridging by the grieving process, allowing the tears to come. The crying allows the reset of energies. It flips a switch. It's like a reset. And it's not about giving up, but the surrender. To amplify the sound or the music of the spheres, just like Ben Franklin as the conduit, interviewing stars to ground their light into music, or be the conductor, or laser energy into lower back and thigh. And then from the travelchinaguide.com, which came up from Steve yesterday, thank you, Steve, just talking about the Chinese horoscopes and the animals and their origin came up from, and I just happened to open it back up and see this. It's from the Han Dynasty, and you know how I always get Han in the code line. So Han is not only coming for Han Solo, but the Han Dynasty as well, and Chinese medicine. So the Han Dynasty, when they actually named the 12 animals, was the years, get this, 202 BC to 220 AD. And what year are we in? 2020? 202 BC to 220 AD. All right, so unbelievable that this comes up in 2020, right, as significant here. And the Chinese dynasties come up big for me anyway. The Tang Dynasty I know is always significant for me as past life stuff. So the Han Dynasty now as well. And it was funny because in two different things that I was sent yesterday, because I'm an ox, the time, so there's 2 hours for each animal during the day. And the ox is said to ruminate from 1 to 3 a.m. And for example, on the sheep, then from 1 to 3 p.m. is supposed to eat for strength. So it's just funny about the ox ruminating, because then something else comes up talking about ruminating. And then at 1:11, I heard the birds outside, and they sounded like they were barking like 3 times, which is a really strange word to use for birds. And then you notice barking also has that reference to trees. So then, because I was looking up John Amaral, he's in the Santa Cruz area, but San Francisco is coming up as well, because Sacramento is above that. And I was thinking about going out to Sacramento, because my great-grandfather, David Lubin, has several structures out there still in his name, and I've never been there before, so I kind of wanted to visit. So, and of course, I have a friend in San Francisco, and was kind of interested to see if I could see John Amaral when I was out there, but we haven't been able to fly, so just something to put out there. And then I know an Amaral too, so of course I emailed to her to see if she was related to him. So just being the conduit, realizing you are, as the twin, the conduit between the star energy and the work that you do, right? Whether it's crystal work, your own body, other human work, the 3D work that you're doing, the conduit or the star sound to the laser light and into the body, the energy from the sun and walking on the back, and like an Egyptian, right? With the arms in different ways, like do stretches in different ways. The stretches that you've never done before, because those are the places in your muscles and energy bodies that are stuck and blocked because you never release them. We spend so much time sitting, like I said, we need to stretch and release that pent-up energy, especially arching the back. Okay. And they have they've been advertising this this piece, I forget what it's called, to hold your shoulders back too, which I thought was a good idea too, because it really helps you to get your neck back into the proper position, because our necks get so out of alignment over time, you know, as we start hunching over more, when your neck is only supposed to be like 10 degrees forward or something like that. Don't quote me on the number, but it's, you know, it's so much more angled forward than it's supposed to be. So then the Knight of Swords was coming up regarding the 5D messages, because in the SIRIAN Starseed deck, the Knight of Swords is very much about sending a bubble of 5D message out. This is coming up as sending to the Queen of Cups, and then the Queen of Swords releasing emotions, and the Starseed opening the crown to receive their guidance. So the gates of the Divine Masculine at the 3D gate, the Divine Feminine at the 5D gate, right, and the bridge between. But it's coming up as the Masculine 3D to the Divine Feminine 4D to the guides in the 5D. And the Divine Feminine is a conduit between the Divine Masculine and the stars, or the guides, the star power, and his energy or laser work, the light worker. The Divine Masculine has trouble receiving the 5D energy with the emotions of the Divine Feminine attached, right? That's where his block comes in, right? Because he can't deal with emotions. So then I was getting this parallel between the opposites, right? The masculine and the feminine. And they were showing me, number one, that the Divine Feminine is paralleling to Lemuria and water-based Western religions. Also, stretching and emotions. That's what women do naturally. The Divine Masculines were coming up as Atlanteans, the desert-based, dry, logical, Eastern-based religions, that are open and more grounded to the etheric realm. So the Queen of Cups sends a tidal wave of emotions to the desert guide, or the masculine, the shaman, who's dry and logical. And it takes many waves to saturate the desert, as you can imagine, right? If a tidal wave comes onto the desert, it's just going to soak into the sand because it's so dry. It soaks it up. So as he takes on more and more of that emotion, it keeps soaking it up and soaking it up. Eventually, it will start coming to the surface. Then she evokes less and less in order to even the field. So as the masculine takes on more and more emotions and absorbs it in, the feminine takes on less and less in order to even the playing field, okay? Or your etheric field. So instead of turbulent ocean meets desert, two rivers meet, the freshwater and the saltwater rivers meet, like at the Mary Magdalene baptism site. So the signs that were coming up on the cards here representing, and these were coming from those two cards I told you about, the Star card and the Four of Cups, because they both reach for the Star. I'm sorry, not the Four of Cups. It's actually the Fool, because it was the 0. So the Fool card and the Star card. No. Okay, that's right, because the Fool card in this deck is the Starseed. So the 0 was coming up as the egg from the Fool card, or the Starseed. That's the divine feminine representation. The Hierophant was coming up as the divine masculine, because in this deck it's the guidance card and it's the desert, along with the Sphinx image, and Buddha as well. Okay, so that's coming up as the masculine energies, and that's the V of the 5. So if you put the V and you put the egg on top of it, it's literally a flower, like a tulip, but it's missing the stem between them, the connection. So it's like an egg in its nest, needing the stem to connect them, right? The quantum leap of birth. So here it is paralleling creation again. So sometimes fire comes in, we were talking about the water washing over, the tidal wave washing over the desert, so the desert can get more water because it's dry. And then that takes some of the over-emotionalism away from the feminine side, right? So she keeps sending the emotions over to the masculine side, and it doesn't seem to be there because it's still dry and dry and dry and dry, but eventually the desert gets saturated, and then all of a sudden the emotions start to come up and show. And then they become two rivers instead of a turbulent ocean and a desert. But sometimes the fire comes in an attempt to evaporate the water more quickly, right, when we get impatient. But the desert needs that half of the water. So don't abuse yourself or others with your temper or your impatience, which is the fire or drama. Not taking away the intellect, but adding the conduit to the spiritual realms, the water. The water, like I always tell you, is like ultrasound gel. To not only get enough water that is critical, but also the flow of emotion due to stopped up emotional body. Too much ego is in the way. So the masculine refusing to face their wounds because they are too painful. But the problem here is it's not only getting enough water, but crying. You need to cry to release those stopped up emotional blockages in your emotional body. So not only is it important for you to conduct to the etheric realms through the drinking of water to make sure your body is properly nourished, but also to cry, because that's also proper bodily nourishment, to allow your body to cry and release the emotional body. That's what the body's supposed to do. And the masculine has trouble with that, which is why he has trouble also connecting to the etheric realm, because if you don't cry and drink water, you're not going to connect fully like you're supposed to. All right? So it's coming up as the O of the egg, but it's not a perfect circle. It's the oval or the egg shape of the Fool, and the V. And then, of course, OV, ovulation comes up, which again has to do with creation. 56, that number was coming up as the 2 of Swords, the knowing and keeping to yourself, right? So you don't go sane. Being in your knowing without having to prove anything, keeping it to yourself, but also can be someone pretending not to know so they don't have to deal with the issue. So it's always two sides of the same coin. The full moon emotions here inspire the Hanged Man, as we're in the crucifixion energy of the masculine, to rise in the resurrection tomorrow, the death of the King of Wands and the Tower, right? The crucifixion of the man of passion and the rising into, and get this, the energies that were coming up, and it was so crazy windy yesterday as I'm writing all this stuff. The death of the King of Wands and the Tower moment, the crucifixion of Jesus, and then we have the 5D meditation of the 4 of Swords. and the compassion of the 9, and the, is it John? It might have been double 9s, but the Hermit was coming up as the Jesus energy, and the compassion of the Hermit, and then the Emperor being the king, but also can represent God, because God's the only entity in control of everything. So the Hierophant was coming up with the Chariot, literally God's vehicle to ascend, as Jesus shows compassion for his perpetrator. He ascends. Okay? So then I was doing some Akashic record visits with my son. We've been doing some different kinds of meditations each day, because he's learning how to do all this stuff too. And we've been doing this one. Jill and Remy have a video out this week about, an example about how to go to your Akashic records. So we've been practicing that together. So yesterday when we did it, I didn't write all down all the terms, and I might do that later if I post a video later, but the first word that I saw in the book that I looked at was hoe. So of course, a woman who looks at H-O is normally going to think about a whore, and of course Mary Magdalene references that as well. But hoe has lots of meanings, right? It's like ho, like stop, and it also means water. And it also meant woman and he and she when I went through the Wiktionary definition. So it means a lot of things. But when I saw that word, I also let it go. And then I went on to the next opening of an Akashic record, and I was then in a canoe with my twin, canoeing together, in peace together. And that's kind of like referencing the Mary Magdalene baptism site of the two rivers that come together, the salt and the fresh water that run together, and that's the Y in the road. But then flowing wherever the river takes you. Last night I did it again before I went to sleep, and I did it again this morning. And last night I got, and some strange random words will come up, so you won't really get it. Like I explained to you that zoo came up the other day, and then I paralleled all these people in my life who are connected to the zoo and animals, very much so. So the word I got flower, which was a personal message for sure, but that can be a general message for you guys, as you can imagine. So flower came up, and its definition, so again, you can look in Wiktionary if you want lots of different definitions. It's really good for that. And then this morning I got hill before I actually turned my sand art to see what my sand art was saying, and it literally showed me two lovebirds falling apart, disintegrating, and a hill building up. Right? So the two lovebirds become the hill, but it wasn't a mountain. It's like saying don't make a mountain out of a molehill. It's just a hill. So there's different meanings for the hill too, so you can look that up. So just as an example, I want you to have another example of how to clear some things. Go into, you walk up the steps. You can watch Jill and Remy's video yesterday. But, many people say the same type of thing. You go into your etheric realm, you walk up the steps, you go through the door, and it takes you to a garden, or it takes you, wherever you want to go, to a temple. And then, and then go to look up your book, what's your Akashic records, to see what it has to tell you. So then the movie I watched last night was called Love, Wedding, Repeat, which has to do with a do-over. And it was, the end of the movie was about seizing the moment, right? Someone missing their moment when they didn't seize it before, and now having a do-over and a second chance, they actually seize the moment this time, being unafraid. So that, and Spirit's connecting with me, that was a big message. So the Divine Masculine, this is the message, the code that was coming up from the Masculine read I did last night. I see the lover's chariot, and Mother Mary comes to me, let it be. And then googly eyes were coming up. The mother screens the son's eyes before letting him take the car out on a date, right? They want to make sure that they've been drinking or high before they go out to make sure he's safe. So here's coming up the connection of the masculine to his mother, and also Mother Mary to Jesus, and that good news triggers all hell to break loose. The Divine Feminine in need of Geppetto, Divine Masculine's Pinocchio father, to put her heart that had been cut out back in its place, even if it takes all night in surgery. The Divine Masculine is detoxing chaos while trying to tell his story, taking sex out of the equation, as ... the dark bird and the man dragging the goat by a leash while controlling the flame with his other hand. The kids hiding their faces, and the Divine Masculine's heart still hurts, with synchronicities coming in all around all the time, and dealing with the Emperor and the King of Cups reversed and upright. All right, so these two characters were coming up as Herod and Pilate. Very interesting here, right? So Herod was kind of the crazy one. He was raised as a Jew, but he was, he conquered Judea, according to Wikipedia.com. I also looked up at one point learnreligion.com, so those are the main sites that are coming up here and what I'm telling you. But Herod conquered Judea with a Roman group. So, and he was the one very temperamental. So he's coming up as the King of Cups, upright and reversed. Keep going back and forth between these emotional outbursts, right? Whereas Pilate's coming up as the Emperor. He was the Roman governance over the area, so it was ultimately up to him to decide what happened to Jesus, right? Remember, they sent Jesus to Herod and he wouldn't talk, so Herod said, I don't know, he won't talk, send him back to Pilate. So he just dismissed him. But he's the King of Cups reversed that's coming up in the masculine's read, and the Emperor's coming up as Pilate, the one who thinks he's innocent but has to prosecute him anyway because he's afraid of the crowd, the societal norms, right? The masculine and his father or his father-in-law or his boss, right, who's afraid of what people will think. Whereas the King of Cups really doesn't care about what other people think, but he's more narcissistic, right? Because Herod was all about himself. He didn't really care about the Jews. He was more involved in his power and connection to Rome. So it's very interesting how these tied in. So dealing with the Emperor and the King of Cups, who's upright and reversed, back and forth, over-emotional, or it could be a drunk, or it could be someone who's emotionally detached as well, or all of those things in one. Withholding and over-giving, debts and collections. Spitting, coughing, and hacking it up was coming up here. Expecting someone to die, but then it turned around. Using emotions from above to plant seeds of love. Thought it was dead and buried, but the Divine Feminine keeps getting back up, just like the kids do in the morning. Fallen angel and insecure magician reversed. In the death walk, the walk of shame, the dark night of the soul, and the night of the living dead, which is the resurrection tonight and the resurrection tomorrow, okay? Chariots of fire, no surprise. A big love at work, not patient. The King of Pentacles, upright. The justice of release from prison, but still alone, delays and no lover present, in detox of chaos and arrogance. Now the Queen of Cups and the Hermit must no longer hurt each other, but must come together. In the 11th hour, as the Emperor goes into a jealous rage, that Jesus is not affected by his torturous death. Jesus is released when fully at peace with himself. Apart from Herod, the king of the Jews, under Roman rule, and Pontius Pilate, the one who had to decide for the priests, right? The Roman representative. So initially went to Pilate, who didn't feel he was guilty of anything, so he sent him to Herod to try to get out of the responsibility of it. And then Herod sent it back to Pilate, and Pilate, being afraid of society, sentences him to hanging, along with the two criminals that would hang beside him. It took about 6 hours to his death. This is from learnreligion.com. And inscribed above his head was King of the Jews, which is funny because Herod was supposedly King of the Jews. And again, the criminals were crucified at the same time as the witnesses, the two men that I see watching the downloads coming in, right? These are the two witnesses, the criminals. And Herod was in power for 33 years, which is then paralleling the Christ vibration of the 33 years. He was 37 to 4 BC. He was also referenced as the ruler of a quarter as opposed to a king, right? Because the Romans didn't really respect him in that way. Yeah, so it was the Augustus, I believe. It was the second emperor who was dealing with this situation. So Pilate was the 5th prefect of Judea, or he's called governor, but also considered an assistant governor, depending on which place you read. But he was the official from the Roman side, and he was considered a pagan. So those are your energies. It was 6 hours from 6 a.m. in the morning through 3 p.m. Around 2 to 3 p.m. is when he finally died. Into your hands I commit my spirit. And in Luke 23:46, they comment that, and his last breath. So 23 is the King of Wands, and 46 is the children in the garden, right? So as the man of passion takes his last breath, he goes with Mary Magdalene, the 46 of the 2 children, right, into the resurrection. So this is very cool how it parallels. It always does it this time of year. There's always direct parallels because we are the Jesus, Mary Magdalene template. So then today is 4/11/2020, which is the 11 of justice, and the day adds up to 19, which is the sun. So we're talking about truth and balance of justice and the hanging of Jesus and the sun, exposing all, but also the energy from the sun, the star that we're pointing to. So what came up also is something I was sent yesterday that showed the steps of how to, shift your emotions when you're crying and to focus onto your physical, sensations. And in the steps, as the 6th step, hold on one second. And this was from Ascension Tarot, so I just wanted you to know where this was from. But she lists, or he lists, whoever it is, Ascension Tarot lists 7 steps. So in the 6th step, it said, one, that it's like a new skill, focusing on your physical feelings as you cry, as opposed to your thoughts, so you don't ruminate, so you don't fuel your emotions. So that was coming up, rumination, but then that was connecting to how the ox ruminates from 1 to 3 a.m. in the morning. So that word rumination was coming up a lot. So that was important. So then we go on from today, okay? Yesterday and today, last night actually. These were all from the 11th energies. So the divine feminine lover and divine masculine is worshipped, all right? So it's like Jesus Christ being worshipped, and then here's Mary Magdalene on the other side, the lover, right, of the beloved. And then being bridged by the Mother Mary with her arms open wide. The divine feminine has drama on her side in the 4D, and the masculine with the Queen of Wands on his side, the drama, right? It's both that fire energy. And by faith and passing downloads, that's the bridge, is by continuing to pass your downloads, having faith, not knowing where they will lead, you're letting go of the outcomes. The divine feminine in her higher self in the 5D, the divine masculine in his light work in the 5D, bridged by Akashic records, going into your records again to see what last little bits and pieces and juices need to come up again. So the divine masculine boy who is worshipped uses the karmic fire and drama and creativity to bridge to his light work in the 5D, while he can still overindulge in the 3D. And it's coming up like the child, very afraid, because still the child with the mask on and the burning flame inside. A child afraid to open his heart, right? Because if you go from the Page of Wands to the Page of Cups, you can get hurt because you're more vulnerable. So going from the twin flame and the underlying energy to the 7 of Swords in the middle, which has to do with passing downloads from the 5D to the 3D, and then ending up in the portal transition of the masculine and feminine going through the portal together, which is Hieros Gamos. The mother opens her arms to downloads from the Akashic records. So this is a mother who's coming up as open to Akashic records clearing, which is really good. And that's also referencing Mother Mary. And the divine feminine and divine masculines suffering in silence, and he in fear or anxiety as the divine feminine is left alone on the rock in the middle of the ocean, and he about to explode from just beneath the surface of the water across from her where she couldn't reach before, walking away and within to a passionate exchange that's not going away. It is here to stay. And then 54 came up, which is the Page of Swords, the Word. So it references the High Priestess, the Hangman, and the Page of Cups, which is High Priestess is Mary Magdalene, the Hanging Man is Jesus on the cross, and Page of Cups is him as the resurrection. The Mary Magdalene and the Hangman and the Page of Cups, resurrection of love, and then the Page of Swords becomes the Word of Jesus. The heartbreak of the Empress or Mother Mary, and then the 88 of the twins side by side in union. The Frog Prince becoming the Prince, the lover and the beloved bridge in grief. Justice and sovereignty bridge in the green room vortex, right? The tidal wave, like a surfer's green room. Justice and sovereignty bridge in the green room vortex in a coffee cup. One builds a crystal castle while the other grieves until there's no tears left to allow the tears to come. Charging crystals, and then the divine feminine pulling the trigger, right, of speaking her truth. Exposure of the hermit's death, or again, Jesus on the cross, and the number came up here was 41, which is that Ace of Cups, self-love, spiritual love, new love, an outpouring of love. The Ace of Cups, new love in an energetic exchange at night as Pilate, Jesus, Mother Mary, the Empress, and the Father Emperor, he commands his spirit. Okay, so that was all the messages for you guys today. So I'm going to pull some more cards to see what we get from this. I'm going to pull from the energy deck again to see what comes up here. Because we're already at 47. Oh, it was right 47 on the dot, which is heaven in their eyes. Synchronicities and dreams come true. It can happen to you if you're young at heart, if you're the Page of Wands and the Page of Cups. Inspired with a loving heart. All right, so again, here's the energy deck. What is our message again? What is the takeaway from the messages I just relayed to them? In accordance with this, well, there you go. This came up yesterday. 17 is the star. I told you it's all about the star. And here is the black and white, right? The two sides of the same coin, the opposites that run in the same direction here, all right? They merge as opposed to polarizing. Taking action, the star 17 is also an 8, which is manifesting your dreams, and we just had the 47 of the 7 of Cups, which is all of your dreams fulfilled, right? It's the minor arcana of the star card of dreams fulfilled, and here's the star, and we just had the 7 of Cups, which is the lower arcana of the star. All right, so this is this is the twin flames running wild together, playing, taking action, which is beautiful. You have the black and the white of it, and the green of the heart and nature, and the third chakra archangel Shamuel, and being confident. It's also representing the Christ light of the golden white light sprinkled all around you to clear your aura, and 37 of the King of Cups, unconditional love. Not conditional love, but unconditional love, which, remember, you're human, so the unconditional love really has to do with loving yourself, because nobody can be completely unconditionally loving in a human body, because we're human, right? But it's about not taking our triggers out on other people, and it is about unconditionally loving yourself no matter what you do wrong or what you deem as wrong. Unconditionally loving yourself in every moment. That is the point. That is the purpose. The underlying energy here is the 12, which is wisdom, and there's the temple. There's your secret garden, the temple path. Okay, light up your temple. Your moment to be with yourself. The moment to forgive yourself and be with yourself and allow yourself to be yourself at every moment in your now moment. Okay? So how beautiful is this? All right? After the messages today. All right? This is about the path that he took and the coming together of the Mary Magdalene and Jesus energy, and then the Word with the King of Cups, unconditional love. All right, so I'm going to pull from my crystal deck too. I like that. The crystal angels And it's very interesting. For those of you who don't know that much about me, there's a statue there in front of you of Jesus with 2 children. And I'm not a religious person. I was born from a Jewish family. I was not raised religiously. However, I lost a lot of family in the Holocaust. And then about 10 years ago, we found out that my grandfather, who lost the 6 sisters in the Holocaust, not that my other family didn't as well, but we found out that my grandfather wasn't my biological grandfather. When my father's mother died on her deathbed, told my father it wasn't his biological father. And then my father didn't tell us until about 10 years ago. And he didn't even tell us voluntarily. My brother was doing a legacy type questionnaire for my father with his wife, and it just happened to come up. He was asking about his dad, and he's like, oh, he's not my real dad. So it's very interesting how that came up. Okay, so anyway, I just want to let you know that, because I have no religious background, so I don't have an affinity towards any one specific religion. I believe that whatever helps the individual, what makes them their higher self, is what works for them, and that's all great. But it's nice that we have that statue this weekend with the crucifixion and the resurrection of Jesus. So we have Tiger's Eye. The Eye of the Tiger always comes up in the SIRIAN Starseed deck as well. We have self-confidence through God confidence. Believe in yourself by believing in God working through you, right? Because we're all those pieces of God all made into one. So the Tiger's Eye, and you notice how pink this is, which has to do with the high heart and unconditional love and compassion, okay? Lighting that flame. The Tiger's Eye. It's funny because I'm talking about my father's parents and my mother's mother. I received a whole bunch of little pieces of Tiger's Eye from her when she passed away. My yaya. They weren't Greek, but my mother's father was a pediatrician. I don't know why, because he didn't like children very much, but he was a pediatrician, and he was very brilliant. And they had some Greek patients, and they liked that those kids called them Yayan Papuli. So we called them Yayan Papuli. So again, here's that card from the Crystal Angels. This card also wants to come out. Own your divine power. Replace codependent people pleasing with assertiveness and empowerment. So instead of trying to please others, be authentic to yourself. That's what it's saying. Be unconditional, loving always to you. And I love that this is purple and pink. It's very feminine energy. Okay. The underlying energy here from this deck is Moldavite, which is green here and yellow. Unconventionality or unique qualities are an important part of your life purpose. It's okay to feel and be different from others. Again, being authentic, being your special self, the way you were made. Okay? To unconditionally love yourself and your differences from other people, because that's what's special about you. That's why you were made that way, to be not like everyone else, so everyone could be different from each other. So we'd all be the different pieces of the puzzle that fit together perfectly. Okay. One more card from my Kipper deck, and then I'm going to let you go. Okay, one more card. What's our last piece of advice, please? Again, let's clear. Mother, Father, Crystal Sophia, Source, God, Love. What is our last advice from this read? Well, there's your polarity, your contradiction. You have sudden wealth and despair all at the same time. What did I bring in this read? That life can change on a dime. So sudden wealth is 11 is justice, and then 32 is the journey, the despair. Okay, so that's that message. So it's like, don't be in despair. And it's showing you the mass. It's not just the masculine, it's the masculine and the feminine. Okay? That life can change on a dime. So you're learning how to deal with life one step at a time in every moment. Here's the journey. And look what the bottom of the deck is. Great fortune. Okay? So that's really beautiful because it's paralleling with exactly what we were talking about. Okay, so I guess that's it, you guys. Make sure you drink your water, get your rest, get your joy in your nature, and rise and be love.